Hey everyone, welcome to NoDQ Live right here on Facebook.com/AaronRift, and this will be on demand on YouTube.com/AaronRift NoDQ. Just got back from the Moda Center in Portland, Oregon. Monday Night Raw is over. I tried to do a live video right afterwards in the arena, and the connection was not very good. The one negative I have about the Moda Center is their internet connection is not very strong. At Staples Center, I never have any problems being able to connect to Twitter and to the internet in general. But at Moda Center, it was a bit of a challenge. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the Twitter coverage at twitter.com/NoDQ.com. So let's talk about Raw. I'm curious to know what the perspectives were from watching at home versus watching it in person. Overall, I had a good time. I enjoyed Raw. I thought it was a good show overall. We have the main event set for Fastlane, Goldberg one-on-one with Kevin Owens. We also have the first WrestleMania match official, Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar. It is now set in stone for WrestleMania, and it's looking like Goldberg is going to be the new Universal Champion, and it will be Goldberg defending against Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, which is what we were pretty much expecting. No big surprises, but I will say it was a really strong segment on Raw with Goldberg coming out. I wasn't really a big fan of how he just said, oh yeah, I'm not afraid of any challenge. I never back down from a challenge. I mean, to me that was a little weak, but I thought Goldberg's delivery was better than previous weeks. He did not screw up any of his lines, and I like how he put himself on the list of Jericho. That was awesome. Hab Cornell says, I'm tired of the Cruiserweights. I'll get to the Cruiserweights in a second here. I just wanted to say that Goldberg got a huge reaction from the fans in Portland. They loved him. They reacted to him like he was a larger-than-life superstar. And I could see why WWE's putting him in one of the main events, if not the main event at WrestleMania. The guy got a superstar reaction. So, what was the weakest point of Raw? I mean, Hamp talked about the Cruiserweights. I will say Tozawa had a good debut. The crowd was into him more than I expected, and I thought he had a good showing. The second segment, however, pretty much bombed with the live crowd. You had 5 or 6 guys out there. I mean, Austin Aries was really the best part of that segment. That and Neville acting like he was going to do the dive and then did not do it. That got some heel heat. But the 6-man match, the Teddy Long special, got like no reaction from the fans. Christopher asks, will WWE squander Samoa Joe within a year or so? Having Strowman show up did no favors. I thought Samoa Joe had a good debut. I liked the opening segment, Joe coming out in a suit. He looked scary as hell. I mean, more scary than usual. He cut a good promo. The main event match, yes, Joe did beat Roman Reigns, but of course it was due to the outside interference. There's one thing I wanted to mention about the finish of the main event. You could see right before Strowman came out, you could see the cameraman positioning himself at the bottom of the ramp, and he's pointing the camera right at the entrance. And it's like, it pretty much gave away what was going to happen. Everyone knew somebody was going to run down, most likely Strowman. To me, that was the one negative, that everyone could see that coming. As far as, did Joe look weak having to win because of Strowman? I'm sure some people will argue that. We'll see what happens with Samoa Joe in the coming weeks. To me, it's too early to say, but he's off to a good start. I mean, so far I would say he's off to a good start. And I thought it was overall a good main event. Interesting crowd reaction, because I would say it was about 75% anti-Roman, but the pro-Roman people, which was mainly the women and children, they were doing everything in their power to drown out the men. And there was a Roman sucks chant, but then there was actually a Roman chant, a pro-Roman chant, which was very loud, and I think it got on TV. It was interesting. It was like a John Cena type situation where you had the two sides trying to outdo the other side and be louder. And because of that, Reigns overall had the biggest reaction on the show. I mean, Goldberg was very positive, but I would say Reigns probably had the loudest reaction of anybody on this entire show. and Roman Reigns coming out and talking about his yard like he's the Undertaker. I can see how a lot of fans are so frustrated with Reigns. I mean, you can hear the individual fans when you're there live. I could hear somebody yelling out about Reigns no selling like Hulk Hogan and making that kind of Hulk Hogan comeback, and somebody yelling out, how will Roman Reigns overcome the odds when we return from commercial break? And a whole bunch of people started laughing at that point. So yeah, I can see the reasons why people do not like Roman Reigns. The fact that he's every single babyface top guy you've ever seen, and it's the whole thing about overcoming the odds, the same story we've seen over and over again. Justin asks, how would you book Samoa Joe's push? Well, for starters, I would give him a big match at WrestleMania. What is that match? I'm not sure at this point. If Finn Balor's ready in time, I'd do Joe versus Balor. Maybe do Joe versus somebody on SmackDown like an AJ Styles or even a Dean Ambrose or some kind of interpromotional match if you cannot figure out somebody for Joe to face on Raw. But I would put Joe in a pretty big one-on-one match at WrestleMania. That's something I would definitely do. Overall, I felt that Raw was a strong show, and being there live, I definitely enjoyed the live atmosphere of it. I have to say, I did enjoy the fact that there was no commentary. I did not miss the commentary at all. What did you guys think of the commentary this week? To me, it was a nice change of pace to not have to hear the commentary. When is Steve Blackman coming back? Probably never. Samoa Joe should turn on Triple H. Well, there's an idea for you. I'm not sure what the deal was with the Seth Rollins injury update. Live, all we saw was the Twitter graphic. Apparently, Cole said something about a torn MCL and he might miss WrestleMania, which is what we already knew. So apparently there was no new information given on Raw about Seth Rollins. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. Another thing that the live crowd did not see was the Emelina promo. Apparently she's coming back next week in Las Vegas. And, I liked the stuff with Jericho and Owens. And apparently next week they're doing some sort of celebration of friendship segment in Las Vegas. So that'll continue. And Kevin Owens on Raw brought up, champion versus champion, Owens versus Jericho at WrestleMania. I like Jericho's line, or I think it was Owens' line about Lesnar and Goldberg being on the undercard with Owens and Jericho being the main event. I thought that was good. Let's see here. The announce team hit the mute. Yeah, I would agree with that. And it felt like the show moved faster watching it live. And to me, the big negative on the show was probably the tag team match with the Matadors, whatever they're being called now, against the New Day. I will say the New Day segment was pretty funny when they started bringing up ice cream, and everyone in the building thought that they were talking about ice cream bars, and there was a huge ice cream chant during the match, which I thought was weird because, Portland is all about the vegan stuff and the healthy lifestyle, and the Portland fans chanting for ice cream. I just found that to be amusing. Other thoughts from Raw. You guys might have to refresh my memory. I'm trying to think back to all the segments on Raw. Is there anything on Raw that I have not covered that you're interested in my thoughts, or any thoughts you had on Raw overall? Jeff says, so sick of the announce team. It was nice to not have to hear the announcers. I did like Austin Aries' segment, and the crowd was more into him than the other cruiserweights. Even Neville, it seemed like the crowd did not care about much. David, I did mention Tozawa's debut. The crowd did like Tozawa. They reacted to him more than I thought he would. And I thought he looked good in the segment. So his segment was good. The problem is it's a 3-hour show. I think, 2 hours would be perfectly fine for Raw. But it's the third hour that drags the entire show down. And fans were definitely getting tired. And with the Cruiserweight match, that's like the death spot. Because that's right before the main event, and I think the crowd was saving their energy for the main event, and because of that, there was almost no heat for that Cruiserweight match. Actually, as a matter of fact, there were some people chanting boring, and Hamp says Nia Jax beat Bayley right before Bayley's title shot. Yeah, that's pretty lame. I do agree with you on that. You build up the challenger by having her lose before she gets the title match. Next week, it's Bayley versus Charlotte for the women's title. So since it's on Raw, does that mean that Bayley's winning the title next week on Raw? I enjoyed Raw. I thought it was a good show overall, and it appears that most of the viewers that voted on NoDQ.com also enjoyed it. Right now, it has thumbs up overall and thumbs middle second. I thought it was a very strong show overall. I mean, not the best Raw I've ever seen, but I mean, certainly I was entertained from start to finish. Why do people like Goldberg? I mean, he's an ass kicker. I mean, to sum it up very quickly, Goldberg is an enigma, and he just has the presence. When he came out there, he just knows how to handle himself in front of an audience and knows what to do, knows what to say, knows how to react to things, and he just has the ability to connect with the audience. And sometimes, as Enzo and Cass might say, you can't teach that, and it's just something you have or you don't have. Enzo and Cass, they were very over on this show. I mean, the crowd loves their shtick. How do you feel about the Rock and Roll Express going into the Hall of Fame from Trey? I'm very happy. I mean, Rock and Roll Express were one of the top tag teams of the 1980s, and they're certainly worthy of going into the Hall of Fame despite not having much of a WWE run. I mean, I think they were there for a cup of coffee, very short period of time. What I'm curious about is, will they have Jim Cornette part of the ceremony or even inducting the Rock and Roll Express into the Hall of Fame? That I'm really curious to see. I'd love to see Jim Cornette induct them, but I saw Cornette's tweet, one miracle at a time, so not sure what's going to happen with that. Cameron says, Aaron, can you keep your Randy Orton beard? We'll see. Maybe. Maybe not. Not sure. Will Raw have a Raw Roulette? I would think WWE would have announced that in advance if they were going to do that. Overall, how far do you think the Strowman push will go? At least until Fastlane. I mean, it's now Roman Reigns versus Braun Strowman. I mean, that's the obvious direction. I do not believe they officially announced that, but that is clearly the direction they're going in for Fastlane. And one would think that Roman will beat Strowman, and that very well could be the end of Strowman's push unless they have Strowman win the Andre Battle Royal to save his push, maybe. Kyle says hi. How's it going, Interstate Kyle? Thanks for the shout out from Cameron. So yeah, that pretty much sums up my thoughts on Raw in Portland, and I will be in LA in 2 weeks, so I'll be checking out Raw in Los Angeles, and it'll be interesting to see how the perspective is being there live at that show as well. Make sure you stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest regarding Fastlane. Do you see Taker showing up at Fastlane? Last thing I'll talk about here. Maybe. I mean, I could see that happening, but I could also see it going down a different way where Undertaker just shows up on Raw and confronts Roman Reigns in the ring, similar to like with Undertaker and Triple H from several years back when they just confronted in the ring and had the stare down. Hamp, I'm not answering that question. I don't know. Maybe somebody else knows, but I don't know. Interstate Kyle going to Raw in LA. That'd be awesome to see you. You told me you were going to be there so we could hang out at some point over the weekend. So let's see how that goes. All right, guys, that will wrap it up for NoDQ Live. Thank you for tuning in this late night. I mean, it's past midnight on the East Coast, so at least I got some viewers to check this out live. On demand, of course, on the YouTube channel. Subscribe, tell a friend about NoDQ Live and NoDQ&A video, and I will see you guys next time.